Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your invitation. It's a pleasure for me to give a speech to you. I promise you, my presentation will not about the theoretical philosophy of the technologies, but mainly in the field of active applications based on solar cooling. When I began in the early 90s as a young scientist, I was fascinated by the idea to introduce the solar energy directly into cooling. And I began to develop a combination collectors with absorption and other processes under laboratory conditions. In the year 1998, I was so far to demonstrate a system under the conditions in a rural area in Essen. And then it was my job, which I did, by the way. My main activity was in field science. And then, after some years research at the research center Jülich, and I introduced this company, Solitem, as an outsourcing from the research center. I began with the idea to install the systems under real conditions. And it was a huge challenge for me. I had only an idea and a prototype. And when I talked to people, they told me it's a quite intelligent option, but for future. When I told today, I got the same response. It's the intelligent solution for the future. Then we began with the very first application in a hotel in the year 2004. And the idea was a little bit complicated, so that solar energy, high temperature solar, used parabolic track collectors at a temperature level 180-200 degrees C to produce steam, combine it with the so-called double effect absorption chiller to produce cheap water for air conditioning, for hotels, hospitals, industrial facilities, and so on, and with very high efficiencies, COP is coefficient of performance of the processes. Then we needed several years to be so far to talk about a really improved technology. That means the interfaces between solar energy, conventional technologies, and of course consumer behavior. It was not so easy to optimize the whole process. And we were some years later, about 2007, 6-7 so far, to produce the collectors, more or less handmade, but we were so far to establish a system to produce collectors via robotics. It was the very first plant worldwide, and we did it and realized up to now about 17 plants in different countries, in 10 countries, from Mexico, Italy, Turkey, Cyprus, and so on. Then we are now so far with a huge production capacity. It's about 240 megawatts thermal capacity, production capacity, almost about 40,000 collectors per year. Now we have problems with market needs. When you consider you are in Mediterranean countries and you have different mentalities, and payback period is the very first question, not how much carbon dioxide emission or other aspects. You have to be able to introduce the people or consumers or customers a payback period which is acceptable. That means the payback period should be less than 5 years without any subsidies. It was a huge challenge. And in the meantime, we tried to optimize the whole process. That means increase the efficiencies of each process and to optimize the dynamic behavior of each part of the process and decrease the costs. And we are today so far with our unique production line, and it's been here with robotics. We are able to produce the collectors on a single day, about 150 collectors, but the capacity which we use is less than 5% of the installed capacity. That means we have no problem with any technician solutions. We have main problem with finances. And that's only some words about our activities. Now, we are talking about future options. What we are facing today, and three main points are population growth, energy consumption, and result of the environment and climate changes. When you consider, when you're on the way worldwide, when you explain all these problems, as I mentioned before, the main question which is to clarify is to say, I have a technology which is economic acceptable, and that's all. And all these are soft facts, and others are hard facts. And for me, these hard facts are this. But it's not so easy to bring all these ideas, all these arguments to improve, to establish all these technologies. It's for me the main problem. You know all these numbers. In the early 90s, I had on my slides carbon dioxide emission, about 18, 20 billion tons per year. Today, I don't know, about 35, 37 billion. That's just only a number for the people. But the results, the problems, what we are going to face are huge. We try to explain, or I try to explain, the results of these processes and the inability of humankind to solve the problems before they are going to face them. That's the problem. For example, here, 2,000 years ago, world population around 200, 220 million. 1,000 years later, 400, 420. In the year 1850, about 1 billion. Today, I don't know, 7 point and so on. And when you look all these developments, and also energy consumption increasing and increasing, and we have on the other hand, as I explained, intelligent solutions. The main problem is not the technical solution. The main problem is humankind, the way of thinking. It's the major barrier. For example, here in China, in other countries, in developing countries, more or less the same picture. All these numbers are very well known, I think. Here, for example, here, about years, and also natural disasters. There are some targets. For example, in the European Union, up to 25, 80, 95%. In the United Kingdom, USA, in other countries also. These are only just targets. And as I mentioned, the main barrier for these problems is the behavior of humankind. How can we change it? I have no any solutions. I have to explain everywhere, not only theoretical way. I show also in different countries, from Singapore to Portugal. I have in each object, what is hospitals, industrial facilities, more or less the same problem. energy efficiencies are terrible. On the other hand, the problems are growing. The people are only interested when they have economic problems with paying off energy costs. For example, future fuel pathways. We use today non-fossil energies, electricity, for example, for mobile applications, for cars, fuel cells, CHP applications, and so on, which we have today. This one. And the biomass, there are different ways to capture carbon dioxide through synthesis and use with alcohol reforming process, and to use it for an intelligent way of energy usage. For example, there's quite interesting process, well-to-wheel analysis. Here, from one heat, we have the energy 100%. Conversion and transmission losses, in best case, 70% energy by the wheel. And in a car, we use, in best case, thermal energy into kinetic energy, 20%. Approximately is 15 to 70%. In best case, 20%. That means we have 20% energy content, 20 times 70, 14% in a car to move from A to B. My goal is not to move the car to myself. My weight is 15th the weight of the car. The people who have higher weight has a better efficiency in this case. Here, for example, in 4-wheel Golf, 1,300 kilogram weight, and the driver 80 kilogram. In this case, we have an efficiency in the whole process only 0.9. My own efficiency is 4.7. The best efficiency is between 1.3, 1.5. It's the efficiency of photosynthesis. There's nothing else. It was 100%. I moved myself from A to B and used only 4.9%. That's the reality which we have. For all these activities, I received from different organizations more than 30 prizes, but my best prize would be or should be to establish this technology worldwide. Thank you very much.